This is our new story. It is called The Dot, and it is one of my favorite stories that we work on in first grade. We're going to start off by looking at the words for this story. So when we look at number 1, we see partner letters. CH says ch. We see bossy R. ER says And then we see long vowels, EA together. When two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. So we hear the E sound. When we put it all together, we get T, E, Ch, teacher. The art teacher shows how to use a brush. Go down below, number 2. We have a base word, study. Then we added an ED ending. We had to change one of the letters. When we put that together, studied, we get studied. She studied the flower before she drew it. When you study something, you learn about it. So this is in the past tense because it has the ED ending on it, and it means it already happened. Number 3, another ED ending says d, so our word surprise, and then we added the ending, surprised. He was surprised to see such a big statue. Number 4, you might recognize TO says to. We are putting a little word inside of a bigger word, toward. That means you are getting closer to something. He walked slowly toward the art table. Number 5, bear. The picture of the bear looks very real. Number 6, sometimes when we have a at the beginning of a word, it doesn't say a, it says a. And this is one of those words. This word is above. Above means on top of. These shapes hang high above the floor. Number 7, even. This box has even more crowns in it. Even can mean a couple different things. It can mean that two things are the same. So if I pour 2 glasses of juice and they are even, it means that they have the same amount. In this sentence, they're using it to compare something and tell which one has more. And then at number 8 is another ED ending. So we have push, and then we put ED on the end, pushed. He pushed the clay into new shapes. We learned about push and pull in our weekly reader last week. So push is when you are moving something away from you. All right, let's look at those words. It says art class. The art teacher pushed the cart of art supplies toward the children. They studied how to use them. A boy drew a bear. A girl drew the sun above tall trees. The class even surprised their teacher by painting a class picture. And it shows us art supplies down below, crowns, paintbrush, watercolors, markers, and paper. We are going to be looking today at how things are the same and how things are different using our Venn diagram. When we compare, we tell what is the same about things. When we contrast, we tell what is different about things. So they are asking us to think about how drawing and painting are the same and different. We are going to be filling out one of these at the end of our story today about our character. So this is our story. It's called The Dot, and it is by Peter H. Reynolds. This is Peter H. Reynolds. It says, it took Peter H. Reynolds a year and a half to write The Dot. He named his character Vashti after a young girl he met at a coffee shop. Mr. Reynolds wrote Ish as a follow-up book to The Dot. So today we're going to hear The Dot. If you listen to any of the other stories that I read at the end of the week on Friday, I'm going to put up the story Ish. If you like Peter H. Reynolds stories, you might enjoy it. All right, let's listen.
Art class was over, but Vashti sat glued to her chair. Her paper was empty. Vashti's teacher leaned over the blank paper. Ah, a polar bear in a snowstorm, she said. Very funny, said Vashti. I just can't draw.
So let's stop for a minute before we go on. First of all, let's use some of our clues that we see here. When we look at Vashti in art class, does she look happy? Does she look like she likes art class? She's not even facing her paper. You can see that she hasn't done anything in art class. She doesn't have anything drawn on her paper. And she's not even trying. She turned around, she has her arms crossed, her face is angry. So we get a clue here that she doesn't like art, she's not doing anything, she doesn't think she can do it. We have some words here that we need to think about. It says, Vashti sat glued to her chair. Do you really think that she had glue on her chair and she was stuck there? Probably not. That doesn't really happen. But what they're trying to tell us is she didn't move. So if somebody says that you were glued to the TV, that means that you were watching TV and you didn't move. You stayed there the whole time. So when they say that art class was over, if you look around, there's no other kids in the art class, but Vashti is glued to her chair. It means she didn't move. Then on this side, her teacher's there, and it says her paper is blank. So it's all white. There's nothing on her paper. And her teacher says, a polar bear in a snowstorm. So her teacher's trying to make Vashti a little bit happy, almost by making a joke. A polar bear's white, a snowstorm's white, and Vashti's paper's all white. But Vashti doesn't really like that. And she says, I just can't draw. And when we look at her face again, we see that she's not happy. So Vashti thinks that she can't do anything in art class.
Her teacher smiled. Just make a mark and see where it takes you. Vashti grabbed a marker and gave the paper a good, strong jab. There.
So the teacher's not getting angry at Vashti for not doing anything. Instead, she encourages her. She tells her just to make a mark. Now, Vashti doesn't do it very nicely. Look at her. She kind of slams her pencil down on her paper.
Her teacher picked up the paper and studied it carefully. She pushed the paper toward Vashti and quietly said, Now sign it. Vashti thought for a moment. Well, maybe I can't draw, but I can sign my name.
So when we look at the paper here, we see a dot in the middle of the paper. That's what Vashti made with her pencil. And then down at the bottom, she's signing her name. You know, when you do anything at school, I tell you to write your name on it so I know whose it is. But also, when we make any kind of drawing or painting, or when artists do, they sign their name on it. That shows that they are proud of their work. They are happy about what they've done. So Vashti can sign her name on her dot.
The next week, when Vashti walked into art class, she was surprised to see what was hanging above her teacher's desk. It was the little dot she had drawn, her dot, all framed in swirly gold.
So when you look at this, the teacher took Vashti's paper, there's her name on the bottom, and there's the dot she made with her pencil, and the teacher hung it up on the wall and put this fancy frame around it. It's gold and swirly. This makes it look like it's something special. So when Vashti sees it, she's surprised.
Humph! I can make a better dot than that. She opened her never-before-used set of watercolors and set to work, Vashti painted and painted. A red dot, a purple dot, a yellow dot, a blue dot. The blue mixed with the yellow. She discovered that she could make a green dot. Vashti kept experimenting. Lots of little dots in many colors.
Okay, so let's think for a moment here on this part. Vashti sees her dot. At first she was surprised, but now she looks kind of grumpy again. And now she says, she starts to think, that's not a very good dot that's hanging on the wall. She wants to make a better dot. So it says her never before used set of watercolors. That's her paints. And that means that they're brand new. She never even tried to use her paints before. And when she does, she can make colorful dots. She mixes the colors and she's using all different colors. When we look at her face, she's not as grumpy anymore. She might start to enjoy her artwork.
If I can make little dots, I can make big dots too. Vashti splashed her colors with a bigger brush on bigger paper to make bigger dots. Vashti even made a dot by not painting a dot.
So if we look on the wall and what Vashti's making, she's got all different kinds of dots. Every picture she makes has some kind of dot on it. On this page, it says she makes a dot by not making a dot. So she put paint all around the edges of the paper and left the inside blank to make a dot.
At the school art show, a few weeks later, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash.
So when we look at the art show, there's 2 whole walls of all Vashti's dots. And you can see they're all different. They all have her name on the bottom. She signed them all, and people are looking at them and liking the dots. It says, Vashti's many dots made quite a splash. When you think about splashing, you usually think about swimming in a pool or in a water fountain, doing something with a water fountain or a hose. Is that what's happening in this picture? No, when somebody says it made quite a splash, it means lots of people liked it. People were excited about her pictures. They were impressed. They liked them a lot. So those are words that mean something different.
Vashti noticed a little boy gazing up at her. You're a really great artist. I wish I could draw, he said. I bet you can, said Vashti. Me? No, not me. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. Vashti smiled. She handed the boy a blank sheet of paper. Show me. The boy's pencil shook as he drew his line.
Look at what's happening here. This little boy says he can't draw. That kind of reminds me of Vashti at the beginning of our story. She said she couldn't draw to her art teacher. But Vashti knows what to do. She hands the boy some paper and says, show me. That's kind of what her art teacher did at the beginning of the story.
Vashti stared at the boy's squiggle, and then she said, sign it. Read together.
All right, so you can see here the boy's line, his squiggle, and Vashti tells him to sign his name on it. That is what her art teacher did at the beginning of the story, and that's kind of what helped change Vashti's mind from saying that she couldn't do any art to being able to draw all those different dots. So maybe she will encourage this boy to do some good work. All right, for the next few minutes, we are going to fill in our Venn diagram here. We are going to be talking about how Vashti was at the beginning of the story, how Vashti was at the end of the story, and maybe some things that were the same about Vashti at both the beginning and the end of the story. So this is a good way for us to compare, talk about what was alike, and contrast, talk about what was different. All right, so let's think about at the beginning of our story. What were some things about Vashti? I kind of want to say that she was, I want to put this down so that you can see it. There we go. I want to say that she was angry at the beginning of the story. Her face was very grumpy and she was angry. When I think about why, she thinks she can't draw. So that was something at the beginning of the story. Thinks she can't. That's an apostrophe. Remember, it used to be cannot, and we put those two words together to make it can't draw. And she even says that to her teacher, that she can't draw. She doesn't like art. Doesn't used to be does not. Doesn't like art. She's not happy in art class. She doesn't want to do her drawings, so she doesn't like art. And I think she's discouraged. Discouraged means you think you can't do something and you don't want to try. You're afraid to make a mistake or be wrong. So those are some things that happened at the beginning of our story when we talked about Vashti. What's Vashti like at the beginning of the story? Now let's think about at the end of the story. What is Vashti like at the end of our story? Well, now she likes art. She has all those pictures in the art show. She's smiling. We could say that she's proud. She has her name on all those pictures. She wants people to see them and she thinks that they are good. Now she thinks she is a good artist. Thinks she is good at art. And maybe she's excited. She's happy about making art. She's excited about the art show. She wants to show other people the things that she has done. So those are some things that tell us about Vashti at the end of our story. Now, in the middle are things that are the same about Vashti at the beginning and the end of our story. So I've got to think for a moment, what was the same about Vashti? Well, she can make a dot. Can make a dot. At the very beginning of the story, she could make a dot, and at the end of the story, she could make a dot. She made dots through the whole story. And what else did she do? Well, she could write her name. Write her name. She was signing her name on her dot at the beginning and the end of the story. So when we talk about some things that were the same about our Vashti in our story and were different about Vashti in our story, we are comparing and contrasting. We are going to do some more comparing and contrasting in our guided reading books this week. So tomorrow we will be working on that.